My name's Angelo, and welcome to We Want Picks. This is the only channel dedicated to UFC fight picks and DraftKings lineups run by MMA insiders and professional fighters. Every week, I join Dan Kramer and Nick Newell, two longtime professional fighters that have fought at the highest levels on the planet, as well as Jacob Lyons, a skinny kid from Indiana. So join us every single week for our full fight card breakdowns, our individual fight card breakdowns, our betting guide, and our DraftKings lineups. Another big guest this week, two guests this week because there's no fights this weekend. We have Parker Porter, UFC heavyweight. You made your UFC debut last year on short notice, right?
Yeah.
But then you came back, you had a really, really nice win after that. And now here's your third fight in the UFC next weekend. How's it going? How do you feel?
I'm excited, man. I'm feeling good. I'm ready for this. I was ready for it in April, but, COVID saw other plans for me. So unfortunately we had to postpone it. And, now we're finally going to get after it next week.
Well, what's nice is you got the same opponent. So it's not like you did a full training camp for Chase Sherman. COVID happened. You lost that fight. And now it's just, you still got Chase Sherman. So you essentially got two camps for him.
Right.
That's awesome.
It's a rare opportunity that somebody gets the opportunity rare opportunity that somebody gets two fight camps in a row without having to recover from actually fighting in between.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's interesting about that, so you were training for Chase, you dropped, then Andrei Arlovski came in, and, me, Dan Kramer, Nick, we break down the fights. And I was like, this is an interesting fight because Andrei Arlovski and Parker have sort of a similar style. Like you coming forward, you set everything up with strikes, and you're very like bouncy in and out with your strikes. You're not just standing in the pocket throwing heavy. You move like a lighter guy, even though you're heavyweight. So I was like, that fight will be very interesting for Parker's fight because they have a similar, bouncy striking style. So, I'm looking forward to next weekend, and good for you. I guess my first question is, obviously the Chris Daukaus fight was super short notice. How did that even come about? And were you like, oh boy, I can't say no to this, or what were the circumstances there?
Yeah, it was more or less like that exact scenario. Like I really, who says no thanks to the UFC when you get the call up, I had my son was 3 weeks old. My youngest son was 3 weeks old at the time. We're still in the middle of recovering from the quarantine period of the pandemic where everything was shut down. Gyms weren't even fully open yet. I was barely training like once a week. And I was super out of shape. I was like 290 pounds, and then I get that was the last summer when we had that huge hurricane that knocked out power in the state for like 3 days straight.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I had my dad and my stepmom were in town from New York visiting when we lost power. So we had like no air conditioning. We had a new baby. And then all of a sudden at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, my manager calls me and he's like, "Hey, I don't feel like I have to ask, but I do have to ask, do you want to fight in the UFC?" I was like, "What?" Stop messing with me, bro. Like, you really, like, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. Like, why are you calling me for real? He's like, "No, really, like, I got you this deal, blah, blah, blah. It's short notice." So I was obviously like, yeah, absolutely. Yes. He's like, "All right, go back to sleep and, get some rest and get ready to work." I'm like, how am I supposed to go back to sleep?
Yeah.
This news? This is something I've literally been chasing for the last 13, 14 years of my life. And it finally happened. And for me, it was even more of a shock because we're going through the start of the pandemic, or like the peak of the pandemic. And, in my mind, I'm getting older. I just turned 35 a couple months prior to that. And I'm coming off a win in CES. And I'm thinking mentally, my path laid out in front of me is I've got, to fight for a title, maybe defend it once or twice, and then maybe get a shot on like a contender series. I didn't think that, a call up was going to be the immediate thing that happened for me. And at that point too, with everything being delayed and pushed back, I'm like, man, I don't know if my chances are any good anymore. I'm no spring chicken anymore. I'm not, I don't have it going on. I don't have a ton of time to put a whole year delay into my path in front of me. So I was actually trying to mentally kind of come to the terms with the fact that it might not happen. And then lo and behold, surprise, it's happening. So I obviously was like, yeah, absolutely, give me the fight. I had to cut like 25 pounds, and to be completely honest, no BS. I went into that fight knowing, like, with the mentality of like, I'm probably going to lose this fight because I'm so underprepared and had to do so much garbage weight cut that I don't ever normally do. But I'm just going to go in there and do my best. And I've got my foot in the door now, and now I can really show what I can do.
Yeah, and the UFC's proven that if you do them a favor with a short notice fight, they'll do you a favor and
exactly.
give you another shot. And honestly, we watched that fight, a super tough fight and I didn't realize how good Chris Daukaus was until that fight, the next fight, the fight after. Like he's like wow.
Yeah, he's still undefeated in the UFC right now, and I think he's got a number next to his name now. He's ranked.
Well, so. Exactly. But my takeaway from the fight with Daukaus, I knew you just had the baby. I was like, there's no way. Like, I've got 2 kids. There's no way he was training the way he should be training before a short notice fight like this.
Right. I mean, even without a baby, I was still not able to really train the way I should be training for a fight.
But I thought you looked great. I genuinely, like, my takeaway was like, dude, Parker's like, he gassed, but there's no way he was in shape for that. But Parker's striking looked really good in that fight. And that's why your next fight, I was like, I'm going Parker all the way. Like, once you factor in, short notice, baby, all that other stuff. And, it's hard because some fighters can train 24/7 year round. They don't have to do anything else in their life, but you have a real life. You have kids. You have it's different for you, right?
I've got to work. I've got 3 kids to take care of. I got a house to maintain, like I've got the rest of the crap that everybody else in life has on the plate as well, is trying to pursue a career of a professional athlete. Well,
and then so I was like, all that factored in, I actually thought he looked really good. I went hard on you, man. I put you in my DraftKings lineup the next fight. I bet on you the next fight. And I was like, hell yeah, man.
Sweet. I'm glad I was able to make you some money.
Yeah, exactly. So, now you have the Chase Sherman fight. I'm assuming a tougher fight because he's a big dude. Like, he's an actual.
Yeah, he's tall. He's like 6'4", 6'5".
Yeah, he's a big guy.
He's a well-built guy. He's pretty athletic.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it, though. I mean, obviously, you and I go way back. I've known you for a stupid long time. We went to Turkey together. That was an awesome trip.
That was a hell of a trip.
What's so funny about that trip, too, first of all, that was like top 10 trips I've ever done in my life. And you don't even realize it while you're doing it. You just.
No, you're just kind of like in the moment. And then when you look back on it, like now, like 6, 7, 8 years later, you're like, wow, that was really such a cool experience. Like,
yeah,
I'm really glad I got to do that.
Yeah, that was awesome top to bottom. But Diego Lima's fought a few times since then. He was on that trip with us. So it's just funny. Some of the people that come off there and we do the breakdown, it's like, oh, I actually spent a week with Diego Lima too. And here's our thoughts and here's why.
On this and that. Yeah. And the way they've all progressed.
It's just crazy how everything that happens with the sport, like you said, your story just now was you basically were like, I don't know, man. I'm not young anymore. The pandemic stopped like regional MMA and the UFC for a while. I don't know what I'm going to do. Yeah. And then it just all worked itself out. And now, you've got a nice win under your belt, a nice fight coming up you're on the main card, right? So it's a solid.
Yep. So, yeah. I think we're as far as I know, we're the fight right before the co-main.
That's the featured fight. That's how it's listed. So, and I see you're training with William Knight.
Yep.
Who, Nick Newell always talks about having phenomenal cardio and all that. So it's awesome to see the Connecticut people really start to make a name for themselves in the UFC, which is cool. Yeah.
I feel like we've all been doing this for so long, and it's been like this just kind of like really untapped pool of talent up here. For various reasons. One, at the time there weren't a tremendous amount of gyms. The sport wasn't quite as popular as it is nowadays. And 2, the sport itself didn't even technically become legal in Connecticut until about 4 years ago.
Yeah.
As far as like sanctioned events, they would always have stuff at Mohegan Sun and Foxwoods and things like that because they had different rules to follow for a Native American reservation and whatnot than the actual state. But that was always one of the limiting factors. Yeah.
Yeah. And they had to do it at the Indian casinos and it was always a different world, and smaller promotions couldn't really go there because, it's a big, expensive arena. Yeah, exactly. So now it's growing quickly, and you're an OG Connecticut fighter. So I do have some fan questions. I'm going to throw these up on the screen.
Sure.
The first one's from Joe Todoro. He said, "What got you into MMA, and when did you realize that you wanted to make a full career out of it?"
So I got into MMA actually with no intentions of ever actually competing. I just got out of high school. I was a big chunky football player. I was like 340 pounds by the time I graduated high school. I was a defensive lineman, but I'd always been an athlete my whole life. So I like got in the gym and started taking more, serious attention to my diet, and I lost a ton of weight. And then here I was kind of like in the best shape I'd ever been in my whole life. Being an athlete, I'd always worked out or gotten into the gym to improve my performance athletically. And now I was in the best shape that I'd ever been in, and I had nothing to do with it. So I got into it to kind of mix up my workouts, learn a little bit of self-defense, and just have some fun. And then after a couple of months of doing it, my coach at the time was kind of like, you're kind of good at this. Do you want to give it a shot? And I was like, yeah, I was 20, 21 years old when I had my first pro fight, because at the time things still were so, like cloak and dagger, that they didn't have a ton of amateur promotions around. So I just went straight pro.
You didn't even have a single amateur fight?
Not one.
Oh,
no,
wow.
The closest thing I had to an amateur fight was the hard sparring we would have at the gym that I was training at. So, I went in there and I won my first fight by knockout in the third round. And I came out and I was like, this is where it's at. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. I need to keep doing this. I need to see how far I can take this. And then I just became more and more obsessed with it and fell deeper in love with it. And now I'm here.
Yeah. It's always interesting people's, how people find it. And it's funny because back like the older times, it was sort of like your story. But now kids are training to be fighters. Like 7-year-olds,
kids are growing up with it.
There's
There's actual like kids MMA programs at a lot of reputable gyms, like Nick's got kids program at his place, and his coach Jamey at his place FAA in Springfield. Glover Teixeira has a kids program at his gym. There's one at Underdog where I used to train. In my gym, I'm eventually going to open up a kids program as well. There's a bunch of stuff going on. Thornton's, where I'm training now, has a wonderful kids Muay Thai program. Like, it's just everywhere. Whereas back when we were first getting into it, it was like, unless you knew a guy who knew a guy, you didn't know where to go train. And even then it was like, I don't know if this guy really knows what he's talking about.
Exactly. Exactly. No, it's funny because we're like the same age. I'm a year older than you. We've been involved in MMA the same amount of time for the most part, just different. I didn't fight, but different paths. And it is funny to see, especially in the Northeast, like see that all come together, because Naga is based out of the Northeast. It's not fighting, but it's grappling.
Yep.
And then Naga would have the events in Jersey that had some fighting. So it was always
well, Naga has got their
the reality
fighting too, where Kip puts on a good show every couple of years. It's actually that belt that I got right there. I got that back before I went back into CES and then got picked up by the UFC. But there's really there wasn't a tremendous amount of connections or information out there about it.
Oh, and people are fighting in like weird basements and stuff like that. And
so like, I know a guy, we're going to go train in his basement or in his garage. And I'm like, that sounds really shady. Like meth lab shady.
Yeah, exactly. The next question is 2. Brett Vigil said, if you could redo any career move, what would it be and why? Or none.
I don't know. I feel like the most, like, one of the biggest things that probably would have helped me get to where I needed to go faster would be to take the opportunity to go and travel to train at bigger, more well-known gyms when I had the opportunity, when I was younger with less responsibilities, before I had gotten married and had kids and had to got a little more anchored and tied down, like when I was kind of single and doing my own thing and just really just training. I definitely had the opportunities and resources to I could move to Florida and train at ATT or fly out to, Albuquerque, New Mexico, and go train at Jackson Wink. And, and I don't know why I never took my opportunity to do those things, but I feel like it would have helped create connections that I needed sooner and help develop my skill set and improve my overall fight IQ and maturity a little sooner than it would have, than it did. Because when talking to some of the UFC brass, I had apparently been on their radar for quite an amount of time. But then I had, life got in the way. I got my kids. I got, life things going on, marriage, divorce, remarried, more kids, that caused me to have some gaps in my fight career where I had, I think the longest gap I had was like a 2-year layoff between fights. And that is just something that always kind of deterred them. Maybe they didn't see the level of seriousness that I had, or they didn't think I was as devoted to it as I could be, or, maybe they thought the layoff wouldn't cause me to recover. But yeah, I think that would be the only thing I would really do differently, is take the opportunities that I had to go train at higher levels earlier.
It's interesting because, like, when you're in the moment, it probably doesn't feel like this is the time. This is my opportunity, right? It's like,
right.
Oh, I'm young, I'm training, things seem to be going well. I don't know if I feel like
I'm on the right
Florida.
path. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you're young enough to know everything.
Yeah, exactly. Because so I was never a fighter. I wrestled forever and I trained forever, didn't fight. And I remember, so this is right when Dan came off The Ultimate Fighter. Glover was training at Luigi's gym and in Danbury there. Yep. And they were going out to Chuck Liddell's house because Glover and Chuck Liddell were like super tight and really close. They were going out to Chuck Liddell's house for like a month or two. And like, do you want to come? And I was like, nah, I'm not a big flyer. Like, nah, I'm good. They're like, dude, you're going to regret not doing this. I'm like, nah, it's fine. I'm not a big flyer. And to this day, I'm like, I'm so stupid and now for work, I fly like crazy. So it's not even like this fear of like, it was just, it's the same type thing. Like, yeah, that's a cool opportunity. I'll get that
bullshit
chance
excuse
again.
you made up for yourself kind of thing at the time.
Yeah, exactly. Because it was just easier to stay in Connecticut and not go do that. The next question he had is, what is the favorite fight of yours you recommend people to watch? So somebody's watching this, or somebody's like, oh, you fight? What should I watch? Which fight would that be?
It was probably my last fight with Josh Parisian. That was honestly, you had some great fights on that card, so it was a tough call for tough decision to make for performance bonuses and stuff. But I really thought that we put on a really good performance. Josh is a great guy too. I knew him from our tryouts together for The Ultimate Fighter for the season that he was on. And I know he's a new dad himself, and like he's just a good dude. And we both came and we brought like some of our best performances yet, and we had an awesome back and forth. We even broke a record that fight for most significant strikes thrown in a 3-round heavyweight fight. Yeah, so I was like, that's probably like the best one yet. Yeah. Like there's some other good ones where it's like, that was a good job, good fight here, good fight there. Maybe my last fight with CES against Durley Broenstrup, which I think is on Fight Pass. He was another tough dude. I really liked him. We went at it hard for all the way right up until I caught him with a good shot right on the chin, right at the end of the third round. I think there was maybe like 45 seconds left in the third round, and I managed to land that knockout. So that was another good back and forth battle like that. So I think those are probably the two best fights to watch if you're looking for an entertaining, good back and forth slugfest.
Yeah, that Josh Parisian fight was really good. And what's really nice for you, and I was happy for you after too, is then Josh went on to win another fight. So it's like, oh, Parker 100% belongs. He beat somebody who then went on to win a fight. So you're right there in the mix.
That made me feel a lot more validated as well.
Yeah, exactly. Because, I'm sure you'll always, no matter what ranking you are and how.
Oh, I'm losing you. You're frozen.
Am I still frozen?
There you go. Unfrozen.
Right. my old ass computer. All right, we'll go to the next question here. So Jesse Correa has two. He said, do you have a pre-fight ritual, or is every fight just different? You don't do any specific?
It's not so much a ritual. It's just kind of like the same kind of deal, you know, like go to weigh-ins, just kind of hang out after weigh-ins, and, you know, maybe do like a evening shakeout and just kind of relax and stretch, and, you know, just kind of get yourself in the right state of mind. And then wake up the next morning, again, still just kind of hanging out, do a shakeout, nothing crazy. You obviously don't want to make yourself too tired the day of the fight. You know, you just kind of want to keep your mind and your body sharp and quick. But no, I don't really have like a specific ritual, I would say. It's really more or less just kind of like right before that fight happens, there's kind of like, it's almost like a switch gets flipped, and, you know, I'm not the happy-go-lucky, like, hey, what's up, guys, anymore. And it's just like, it really is almost like two completely different people. You know, it's kind of scary sometimes, but also good.
Yeah. Well, and that makes sense. So no, like, superstitions or anything, just, you know, somewhat of a routine to stay loose.
No, I don't have like a lucky rabbit's foot or like a special charm or anything like that.
And then the second question is about cutting weight. Do you have to cut any weight being a heavyweight?
So, ironically, not usually, but my debut with Chris Dawkins, I had to cut like 25 pounds, and that sucked because I don't normally cut weight ever.
It was
my last two fights before that with CES, I think I cut like 5 pounds. Maybe, which is really like nothing. It's like, okay, don't eat and go hop on that bike for an hour with a sauna suit on. Not even, and just kind of like just move. Don't even put any effort into it. But yeah, normally I don't have to cut any weight. This fight, I won't be cutting any weight. The Parisian fight, I had to cut like maybe 5 more pounds because, again, I was still coming off that, you know, post quarantine 30 plus pounds or whatever it was, you know, drinking and just kind of being miserable and not having any gym or outlet to go to. So no, normally I do not have to cut weight.
It's funny because I could see the difference in your body from the Dawkins fight to the Parisian fight. And then now I'm assuming this fight, because even if
you'll even see a difference.
Yeah,
you'll see a difference between the Parisian fight and this fight as well.
Yeah. Well, and your weight always fluctuated, just and bigger guys. That's just how it is, right? It's just always going to be.
Yeah, I've got one of those. It's like the gift and the curse of, you know, like my when I gain weight, it distributes very evenly, so it sneaks up on me, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, you know, like, I wonder what I weigh. Oh, 20 pounds. What happened? Where did that come from? You know.
That's funny. Well, and you got those giant legs too, which is great for fights. Probably terrible for buying jeans, but
no, it's buying pants is terrible. I hate it. You know, if anybody's out there looking to sponsor a fighter for like custom athletic fit jeans or pants, get at your boy. I'd be a prime candidate for it. You know, smaller waist with gigantic thighs, hook me up.
It's so funny because Dan Kramer, who you know is on the show too, he was talking about that exact thing because he's like very normal, like proportionate, and then his legs, skinny waist, and
giant thighs with a tiny little waist.
Yeah, unreasonable legs. He's like, I literally have to like cut shorts sometimes so that I can fit. So
I've been there, man. It's a gift and a curse. It's funny. Like when I was out in Vegas for the tough tryouts, when I was doing my medicals, I sitting on the table in my underwear waiting for the doctor to come in. He's like, comes in, he's like, all right, stand up, let me take a look at you. And I stand up and he goes, Jesus Christ, you have the biggest legs I've ever seen. I'm like, thank you.
All three? Yeah.
Like, I don't think I'm offended by that, but I'm, thank you.
Exactly. That's funny. Well, I appreciate you coming on. I know I'm not going to ask you specific fight questions because you got your game plan, and I'm not trying to squeeze anything out of you. So
appreciate it.
No, so I'll be watching. I'm looking forward to it. Anything you want to plug or throw out there before we go here?
No, I just want to say thanks for having me on, and pleasure as always to know you as long as we have and see you doing well for yourself. I just big thank you to all my teammates and coaches and training partners. I got Ed Thornton over at Thornton's Martial Arts in East Hartford, Kia Galampour and Chris Samboy, my wrestling coaches, my strength and conditioning guy Dan Esposito, and just all my training partners that I do a lot of work with. I've been training down at Viana Brothers in Watertown. They do a lot of cross training with Glover. I've actually met them through when I was training at Glover's for a period of time. And just big thanks to all those guys that have helped put their bodies and sacrifice their time and efforts into, put their bodies in the line of fire and everything that they've done to help me get ready for this fight and be ready to bring home another W.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I'll be rooting for you. It sounds like you got a nice training setup. It's awesome to hear that there's actually options in Connecticut now and not just one or two gyms that are, and it's a real pro fighter option too. It's not, all right, it's an MMA gym that is 90% women and kids and then sometimes a pro class.
Right. Yeah, it's all general population type people who are more hobbyists and just do it for, for fun and fitness kind of thing versus guys that are like, no, I'm actively pursuing
this is my job.
A professional fight career. This is my job. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome to hear, man. I genuinely appreciate you coming on. Good luck. We'll obviously be watching. I'll be betting on you. So
thanks, man.
Yeah.
Hopefully I make you some more money.
I'm sure you will.